Welcome back. Time to step into the more casual sports discussion ranks with our new segment, Water Cooler Talk, brought to you by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort. Today, I'm joined by one of our outstanding Midco SN basketball analysts, Brad Newitt, to talk about all things Summit League basketball because the conference season is off to a hot start. We've had the privilege of viewing some of these games, calling some of them, and it has been exciting. But we're going to start with a road game from last week, and that was the USD women at Summit League defending champs and tournament champs, Western Illinois, and they stomped them 82-58 in Western Hall. I know you and me both were looking for a video feed of this game because I was looking forward to seeing that, but we didn't have one. Looking at the box score, though, what did you see? What did you take from that one?
Well, first of all, just I think shockwaves of how the margin of that game. I don't think anyone expected that USD would go in there and win by that margin. I think USD had a chance to win, but again, Western's always played well at home. But the thing that really stood out to me was how well USD played defensively in this game. I mean, Western Illinois comes in averaging nearly 80 points a game, and they hold them down into the 50s. So to do that well defensively on Western's home court, boy, that sent a huge message to the rest of the Summit League.
Well, another thing, Western Illinois, and if you saw the game at USD a year ago, or any Western game from a year ago for that matter, they turned people over. And USD beat them in points off turnovers 22-6. I mean, you talk about playing great defense, that right there. Also bench points. Jasmine Trimboli, 19 off the bench. USD beat Western 20-6 in that category. But you talk about bringing that sixth player off the bench. Jasmine Trimboli seems like a player that could be a starter. I mean, she has started for USD. But how important is it to have that kind of punch when the starters are getting tired and you sub in a really good player, spark plug like Trimboli?
Well, that's huge. I mean, and one of the things that USD's got going for them, I think that makes them a really good team on the women's side is their depth. I mean, they have great depth. In that game, they had 5 players in double figures. 4 of their starters were in double figures, and so that was huge for them.
Yeah, it's big. Another big player for USD in that game, Kira Duffy, just playing really well right now, earns Summit League Women's Basketball Player of the Week for the second week in the row. But let's talk about the Saturday games in the Summit League, specifically on the men's side. We were in Vermillion for the NDSU and USD game, and NDSU hands USD only its second loss ever in the Sanford Coyote Sports Center. Ironically, the Bison accounted for that first loss. You called the game. What do you think?
Well, first of all, South Dakota, tough loss for them at home. I mean, they had really been rolling on their home floor, had 2 wins before that. But credit North Dakota State. I mean, they came in there and shot the ball lights out in this game. And this is against the South Dakota team that is one of the best in the Summit League defensively. They give up about 66 a game. North Dakota comes in and hangs over 80 on it because of how well they are shooting the ball in this game.
Yeah, it seemed like they were always knocking down those clutch threes, just kind of those daggers. But a huge factor for the Bison. The redshirt freshman, Cameron Hunter, goes off for 35 points. This is just his 5th start, by the way. I mean, what do you think of this guy?
Well, as a freshman, he had a couple other big games. Had a really big game at USC earlier this year, but nothing like this. I mean, he was feeling it from downtown. Went 5 for 5 on 3-point shots and then hit some huge free throws down the stretch to seal the game for NDSU. USD had no answer for him defensively guarding him from the perimeter.
Yeah, he was tough. But you talk about that defense, and a huge factor that I think, and we talked about this off camera, that played into this game, Carlton Hurst goes out the day before this game. In practice, he breaks his hand trying to get through a screen. And anyone who knows USD basketball knows that Hurst is a huge defensive factor. So now you have Tristan Simpson, also great at defense, but he's guarding what's his name? Cameron Hunter, already forgetting. And then someone's got to guard Paul Miller as well. So how did that matchup kind of impact the game?
I think it was a domino effect, you know, and not having Hurst in the game, that moved Simpson's defensive assignment, like you said, and then that did free up Miller. Miller really had a good game shooting the basketball as well. He had 24 points. I think sometimes, you know, the general fan really underestimates a guy like a Carlton Hurst and what he brings to the table and what his defensive prowess is. I think you really saw that it did really affect USD. Again, one of the best defensive teams in the Summit League, really struggling to shut down North Dakota State on Saturday.
Yeah, that was a tough loss. USD looking to bounce back this week. But let's talk about the team up north, South Dakota State. Their men's team is rolling right now, and they are scoring it. They put up 87 in their win in Fargo and also 101 at Omaha. What are you seeing in their games?
They can flat out shoot the basketball, and they've got Mike Dahm.
Yes,
and he had 2 fabulous games, one player of the week this week in the Summer League, and rightfully so. He has really been shooting the basketball unbelievably. And you look at what he's done on the air. He's got 6 games where he's already scored 30 points. And this team is really rolling offensively. They're not playing a lot of guys. TJ Otzelberger has really cut things down to about a 7-man rotation, but they're really playing well. They're sharing the basketball with each other, and they're getting wins on the road, both at North Dakota State and at Omaha.
Yeah, those are big, and you see once conference play rolls around, starting to tighten up that rotation. But another team that we haven't really touched on a ton throughout this show, Oral Roberts. Their men's team didn't make the tournament a year ago. They're 3-0 in league play, and I mean, I haven't followed a ton of their games, but I'm sure you've studied them a little bit. What are they doing well?
Well, first of all, they have a new coach in Paul Mills, and he comes from Baylor. He was an assistant coach there. Baylor's really known for their zone defense, and he's brought zone defense to Oral Roberts. Not something they've played a lot of in the past, and it's really working well for them. Oral Roberts is a team that's got a lot of size, a lot of athleticism, and teams have had a really hard time scoring against them. Now, granted, Oral Roberts won 3 games on their home floor. I think this is going to be big this week to see how they do now that they have to go on the road. They've got 2 really tough road games coming up at South Dakota State Thursday, game we have on Midco Sports Network, which will be awesome. And then they're at North Dakota State on Saturday. And so I think a lot to be learned about with Oral Roberts men when they go on the road here. But this is a team that really struggled early in the year in their non-con, but you could tell they're getting a lot more confidence now the more they play under this new head coach.
They are, and you talked about them having size, so I think about when they go and play in Frost Arena. I mean, what's that matchup looking like with Mike Dahm going up against people like Albert Owens? I mean, what does that look like?
Oral Roberts does have some different size they can put on Dahm. You mentioned Albert Owens, who's one of the best post defenders and best post scorers you'll see. They've also got a guy named Nezakwezi who's very athletic and at 6'7". So they've got some options of what they can do defensively against Dahm. It will be very interesting to see how they choose to defend Dahm. But again, the zone defense, they may not match up guys one-on-one with him. It might be more of a team effort trying to slow him down. All
right, we'll see how that plays out. Well, we're going to switch gears back to the women's side. You look at the top of the conference, and it's kind of playing out how the preseason rankings thought it would. It's South Dakota State, Western Illinois, and USD at the top. But this league, I mean, it feels like anyone can beat anyone on any given night. So who do you think can challenge those 3 teams?
I think those 3 teams have separated themselves in their non-conference and how they performed. And I think we haven't seen a lot of difference yet. But there's one team that has caught my eye just a little bit, and that's Oral Roberts women. I think they're a team that, again, they've got really good athleticism, especially at the guard position, so they can really defend, they can pressure, they can turn you over, and they're a team that has played well on their home floor. And then they went on the road to Western Illinois. Again, we saw that USD was able to win there, but a tough place to play, and they hung with Western Illinois. They just didn't quite get the offense going enough to win the game. But they're a team I think you got to keep an eye on too that might sneak up there, and it wouldn't be surprising to see them knock off a few of those top teams, especially when those teams have to come to Tulsa.
Yeah, South Dakota State has to head to Tulsa to that Maybe Arena this week, and that could be a tough one. I mean, that's never an easy place to play, and like you talked about, the matchups are just kind of intense. They're a little different for Oral Roberts. Well, great stuff, Brad. As always, looking forward to hearing your calls on those games this week. Thanks for coming in.
You betcha.
All right, well, coming up after the break, we will preview tomorrow's live high school basketball doubleheader in North Dakota and take a quick look at our live broadcast schedule for the rest of the week. This is Midco Sports Tonight.